Okay, welcome in. This is the Sovereign Man's Collective. And what I mean by that when I say sovereign, that means someone who is one unto themselves, meaning that they think for themselves, they are aware, more conscious of their energy as a I it's interesting when people say this, that our energy is our greatest currency. And I used to kind of question that, but now I realize everything is energy. So when we are not aware of where we are leaking and giving our energy away to something outside of us, then we aren't so sovereign. Does that make sense? So when I say, some people are like, what do you mean by giving power away? I mean that when we are believing that something outside of us can bring us more peace or more joy or more abundance or um, make us feel ease and safety, that we have given the power away to something outside of us instead of understanding that everything begins inward. If there is a war inside, check if you're feeling disturbance and like there is a war. When I say a war, if there's constant hypervigilance and over efforting to not think certain things or to not be anxious or depressed or to like just really trying to manage and micromanage your reality so you can feel better, the good news is that once you start to flip the narrative and realize that, oh, when I can turn in and tune in and calm the war in here, my reality, all of my lived experiences will also settle down and be calm as well. All that meaning all of my relationships, all of my experiences, everything that I'm deeming to make my life hard is going to soften because I've softened and given love and attention here first. So, um, this touches into the very thing that I love to geek out on, and that is quantum physics, which says that everything is energy, and that when we are giving our attention to something, we literally are giving our energy to it. So where our attention goes, if we're like, oh my gosh, I need to pay that bill, but I don't have the money. And now you're in a whole over efforting of like worry and maybe some shame and fear and all the things that come with worrying and thinking about a problem. So, if there is a problem that you are trying to overcome through your thoughts, then it's energetically calling back to you the same texture, vibrant or vibration and frequency that you're sending out. And if you aren't aware of that, you're going to keep saying, well, why am I not calling in money? I'm not manifesting the things that I actually desire, which is more abundance, because I think if I think about it enough in a way, I'm going to make it happen. And that is absolutely counterintuitive to the laws of the universe, laws of nature, which actually say we've talked about this before, the difference between upstream thoughts and downstream thoughts. When we're living in upstream thoughts, we're we're giving our energy away, we're leaking energy and our attention to the things that we fear the most. And in return, we are calling back to us the very thing we fear the most in every circumstance. So, what's the opposite of upstream thoughts? Downstream thoughts would be, right now, I'm experiencing not enough money. And because I know how the laws of the universe work, I am not going to feed my anxiety and send out a signal that keeps bringing back more of what I already have. If I am a person who wants more money or needs more money, and I send out that signal, the universe, as the perfect mirror that it is, it's always showing us what's going on in here. It's saying, you are a person that wants and needs Do you see how it's an exact mirror? It will mirror back to you that you are a person that wants. You are a person that has need. If you believed that your abundance was full and rich here, the signal you're sending out is that you are matching with more abundance and more of the things that will bring more ease and peace, because you're living in a state of ease and peace around your relationships and your money, your relationship with money and everything. Does this make sense? Everything that you desire. So that's the other thing I want to mention. Be careful, be mindful. I don't want to like scare anyone, but I want to say be mindful, be aware, bring consciousness to your thoughts. What is your inner dialogue? If your inner dialogue is literally saying, I want, I need, I must have, you are living in the energy of lack. And lack attracts lack. So if you can switch your thoughts, which create your emotions around all of it, to downstream thoughts, which would be like, right now I'm experiencing not enough money in order to kind of function like so I can have more ease in my life. If I can get my thoughts to be a little bit more compassionate and a little more easeful instead of stuck in worry and fear, then you are actually heading in the flow of everything that is waiting for you downstream. The things that you think you need to have, and you're giving that attention of need, those are going to actually bring in more experiences for you to understand that you're a person who is lacking and needs in whatever it is that you're lacking and feeling like you need. And this is where it gets really hard, because we were conditioned to believe that if we want something, we will go out and make it happen. We will over effort, we will work harder, we'll jump into action. And yes, there's always the part of us that when it has to happen, everything starts energetically first, right? So if our thoughts are aligned with it, yes, I know, I trust that the universe is always, it's abundant. It's so abundant. There's enough for everyone. There's no lack in our universe. But if we believe there is, what do we experience? Lack. Our life will be lived in the experiences of lack if we believe that there's not enough to go around for everyone. So if we can strip away some of the conditions of what we've been taught to believe about abundance or love, or that people need to do things and be a certain way for us to have safety and peace here, right? Or that I need to be getting more jobs and working harder in order to bring in more money. Can you see how that's it? If there's resistance or contraction or fear, we're upstream. If we can say, I trust that as I flow with my thoughts and my belief that everything is abundant, then I'm actually setting myself up to receive what wants. It's already there. It already exists in a different frequency than where you are if you're living in fear. So when you start to test it, it's like a test, it's like an experiment. Your hypothesis is, if I can be aware that my thoughts are stuck in fear, if I can bring a softer thought, just a little bit softer thought, I'm starting to turn my attention downstream where everything already lives in the frequency of abundance. That's the hypothesis. So go ahead and play with it and see if I bring softer thoughts and more awareness to, oh my gosh, I keep going to fear. Okay, put your hand on your heart. So then people will be like, well, how do I do that? How do I change my thoughts from fear to more ease? You don't do it all at once, because our brain wants to fix things and have us over effort. That's what it's built to do. But our heart is like, oh, our soul, our heart already knows that we're abundant, that abundance lives here. And so it must start here energetically in order to match with the things that already exist in the quantum field. All possibility lives in the quantum field. What are we giving our attention to? If it's the timeline of fear and lack, that's what we're living in. If it's more downstream, you have many more options there. Do you see that? You start to, I don't want to call it leveling up, but I know that frequencies start low, vibrating, and maybe it's just, I like to think of it as linear, but I live in a linear three-dimensional world. What if it's just, I don't know how to describe it, but for our purposes, I'm going to say the frequency of your abundance lives already somewhere in the possibility of the united field there, the unified field. So if we can tap into the frequency of the abundance that lives already on a dimension of time, that's how you're going to tap into and manifest what you really desire, because you're stepping away from fear. You're not giving your power away to your thoughts anymore. You're like, wait, is it really true that I'm that lacking and that the abundance doesn't have enough? If that's what you believe to be true, that will be your lived experience. There isn't enough. I need to get more. I must have more. And how does that actually feel in your body? Can you see? I mean, I know I have experienced that many, many times in my life. These concepts have changed my life in ways I wish you could see. How I used to live as a victim, like they did this or this happened to me. Life is just life and it's always throwing me curveballs. I don't know what to do. I'm a victim. Can you see how you give your power away to your thoughts and beliefs that you are a victim instead of like, wait a minute, how can I be a victim of life when I always have a choice about how I'm going to believe about the experiences of my life? If I believe things are willy-nilly and random and everything's just hard, pay attention. If things are hard in here, things will be hard out there. The minute you start to bring more ease, more spaciousness to what you're thinking about and what you believe about life and yourself and everyone else in it. And you see that when you start to soften, like come to the edges of your thoughts and soften a little bit more. Now you're heading downstream. Now you're actually in alignment with the very things that are waiting for you to find them on the energetic level of the frequency of abundance and compassion and ease and simplicity. It's more simple than we think. That's the good news. If we are that powerful to create that much suffering in our lives, believing an error in our thoughts, can you imagine how powerful we are when we start to stand in our power and choose better thoughts and choose the thoughts that are going to finally align us with the things? I mean, it's almost amusing when I think about how much time and effort I spent in fear, not even knowing I was living in fear, not even knowing that the signal I was sending out was bringing me back more of the same. So why not try something new? Our mind loves change. Our body loves familiar. That's the war going on right there. Our mind will continue to try to make more thoughts and get us to believe them, but it loves to change. It's always trying to mix it up and fix things and create new experiences. But our body, it keeps the score. It's like, oh my gosh, my thoughts are like this. I must react and respond with more stress hormones, cortisol. I must live in my limbic system because I don't know what thought's coming through next. I have to be ready and hypervigilant and ready to flee or fight or freeze or fawn. Can you see how those are different things? So the question is, are you willing to experiment with your thoughts to see how your body responds? When you have a simpler thought, guess what? Your body's going to respond with almost like, I see it all the time when I work with clients. We'll talk about these things and I'll start to make them more aware of what their thought patterns have been, their I am root statements like I am bad or I'm not good enough or I am not worthy or I'm not capable or I'm different, all of the versions of it. When we keep believing that, it feels really gross in here and our body's always gripping for the next thought that's harmful. So when we give some space and say, wait, is that true? Is it really true that I don't matter or that my needs don't matter? Or did I just come to believe that before I knew better because I was so young and I didn't know how to question it? So now we're starting to move that energy, change that energy to be more easeful, more peaceful, And now we're headed downstream towards the very things that we desire, that are actually already in existence in a different frequency of now. So thank you if you're here. I'm going to ask you if it's safe for you. We're just going to take a couple deep breaths. Our breath is free. It's always with us. And the good news about our breath is that we can't breathe in the past or the future. We can only breathe right now. So we're immediately bringing ourselves back into presence when we stop to take a deep breath. And if you bring intention to your breath or anything that you're doing, my intention with my breath work is to actually be an alchemist, a transmuter of energies. I really do believe that's what one of the most purposeful purposes of this instrument we've been given here, our bodies. If we can bring in energy that feels anxious or gross or old or depressed or judgmental, all the things that are heavy and dense energies, if we can bring it in and know, oh my goodness, I am so powerful. I can take that old gross energy and breathe it up through my heart, which is the great transmuter. I can transmute that old energy into compassion, awareness, consciousness, simplicity, love, all of the things that I get to now send out with my exhale. So I breathe in the gross old stuff, knowing that I am that powerful of a creator being to create new energy to send out a signal into the unified field. So I'm taking it from the unified field, I'm transmuting it, just like Mother Gaia, our earth, is the greatest recycler of crap. And we are like that. We are made. We aren't in nature. We are nature. We are part of nature. So why wouldn't we be able to do that too? As above, so below, as within, so without. So I take those old energies. Anybody can do this. It's not just me. When you do it with intention, you're doing it. You bring it in and you breathe out. And guess what? Now you're sending a signal out of that you believe that you are powerful enough to be in charge of the choice of your thoughts, to create what it does is it resonates through your cells and your DNA and your whole body that I am the one who brings peace. I am the peace giver. I am the one that is choosing the frequency of my being so I can match with the reality that I actually desire to live on, which is one of abundance and love and the frequency of acceptance and no judgment and everything. Everybody has their path. Why am I looking around comparing? No, it's never done me any good. Stay in your lane and choose your thoughts wisely with so much compassion and see how your life starts to change. So I'm curious. I want to do something different here. Normally, I'll talk for much longer. I want to speak for less time and actually offer free counseling, coaching, support in this space. So if anyone here has something that feels like it's a pattern or a cycle that keeps coming up, like the main challenge right now in your life that feels like you would like some support, a roadblock, something that you keep getting stuck on, something that keeps recycling through that you'd want a little bit of support on, please let me know. That's what I'm here for. And I will also want to say that when someone opens up and is vulnerable enough to share where they're at in their life, every time it helps someone else. And not just one person, it's helping everyone who will listen to this later or anyone here now in this container. Please know that you are safe. Yes, I am recording this, but with discretion and with a lot of compassion. I would love to support anyone who's willing to step into and share a little bit, step into this space and share a little bit about what's moving through their lives right now in order to help themselves first, right? Put your life mask on first. Put your oxygen mask on first before you can help someone else. So we turn in and tune in here first, because when we tend to the relationship here, when we create an alliance with the only person who can never leave us, which is us, me. I can never leave me. I will always be here. If I am disconnected from here, I promise you, how could I ever feel connected with anything outside of me if I'm not connected here? When you start to do this work, this inner work of compassion and self love, you start to realize the soft and gentle way that you show up for yourself becomes the way that you show up in every relationship with everything in life, with money, with your sex, with your sensuality, with your relationships, with friendships, romantic or not, with all of your experiences, with coworkers, with everything. You start to change the dynamics energetically of everything because you gave it here first. That is so key and so important for everyone to understand finally in this life. Okay, so if we have anyone that would like to open up about what feels like a challenge or a roadblock or a pattern right now in their life, I would love for you to, you don't have to turn your camera on, but you do need to turn your mute off so I can hear you. And we would all be so grateful.
Hey, yeah. Um,
Okay. Truman, thank you.
of course. A
First,
roadblock for me in my life, and this could be for many different reasons, but well, it being financial.
okay. Okay.
Monetarily, I assume that's probably similar problem for most people, especially my age in a college demographic. Um, Yeah, I would say financial and maybe even productivity. Where to
Ah,
spend the time that's crucial to me and not be wasting it on things that might not be helpful in the long run or just kind of just putting time into the right places.
okay. Thank you for sharing that. First of all, I want to say I honor you coming forward and being willing to be vulnerable. And I also have to say, you are not alone. This is probably what I deal with my clientele most of the time, especially the younger generation. Um, and not just only, but this seems to be a common theme. And I'm going to repeat it now to make sure that I'm saying it right and that I heard you right. Is that one of the struggles and challenges that you are discovering now over this time of being on your own in college and not living at home anymore is that, and in the demographics of college age students and people who are living at the age of, that you are 25 years old, um, it's so common to be worrying about what type of job do I have that's bringing enough money for rent and food and gas and all the extras that seem to just come from nowhere of life. And we live in a day and age where that threshold of how much it actually takes, the cost of living, it keeps creeping up. And is it true that our job hourly rates are matching where that cost of living rate is going up, right? So that's always something you're watching. And you also said my productivity, where, and we talked about this in the beginning. I think you were here and listening, Truman.
Yeah.
Grady, you were kind of new into this, but that our energy is a currency. How aware are we that we are a vessel? We are containers in this instrument. This field that we live in here is energy. It's energetic. And if we are a vessel that holds energy, how aware are we when we're leaking energy? Is there a hole in our bucket, in our vessel? And when I say a hole, that means and I think when we aren't aware of where our energy is going, it looks like a colander. Do you know what a colander is? It's where you take any form of like pasta or spaghetti or something and you're putting it through, running it. And so the liquid can come out while it holds the spaghetti or
Oh
whatever, the
yeah, like a
pasta.
strainer.
A strainer, right? So if we are not careful, our energetic vessel looks like a sieve, a sifter. What did you say?
Strainer.
A strainer, okay, a colander. There's all the different names for it, but we have a lot of holes in our vessel, and it's leaking out to what? Let's name some of them. Um, and a lot of these things can also be ways to distract ourselves from doing the thing that actually would help us move forward in our
Oh,
lives.
absolutely.
And so there are distractions. There's ways to numb out, which almost always align with distraction because it's keeping us from being present in our lives the way that we would want to be, so we can actually energetically be aware of which direction we're headed, right? Are we headed upstream? Are we headed downstream? So when we're unconscious, so this is really important for everyone to know, 90 to 95% of everything we think, how we react, the things we believe, they are below our awareness, meaning they are subconscious. They're living in a whole realm that is very real, and it's running the show 90% of the time, 95% of the time. And we aren't aware of it. This is when we start to go, wait, why is it that I'm always tuning out? Why am I always distracting? Am I taking substances? Am I pick your poison? We all have them, whether we're shopping, whether we're gambling, whether we're looking at porn or masturbating, whether we are looking at scrolling, death scrolling online, what we're watching, what we're feeding our psyche, we're leaking out energy if we're not aware. So, and there's no shame in it because we're human and that's what we do. We were really just conditioned by the human condition. It was handed to us by our parents. When we were born, our parents literally handed us like the stick that you would run a relay. Here's your welcome to the human race. Here's
Baton.
your baton. And the baton carries all the DNA, all the genetic, all the generational thoughts and beliefs really kind of come filtering down. But I also want to draw attention to that baton also contains all the beauty, all the grace, all the talents and the gifts that come from our ancestors, right? And who are our ancestors if time is relative? If everything is happening right now, who are our ancestors? I don't know. I read a book recently. It's kind of when I read it, I'm like, I have to pause and just think about that because it's kind of a big thought and a big concept that we are our ancestors because time is relative. So we are experiencing ourselves over and over and over through time, getting a little more evolved and evolved as we have all the lived experiences of past and future, which all exist right now. It's a concept, right? It's like a big what if. I don't know. It has my attention because I'm like, well, what a beautiful way to actually heal and expand and evolve as an entity, a soul entity, through all the dimensions of now to finally reach our wholeness, which exists already on a dimension of time. The wholest version of us and all of us combined together exists right now. We're just living in different energetic frequencies of now and of our wholeness. And when we start to do this inner work and hold the versions of ourselves that ever came to believe flawed thinking that keep us suffering and stuck and scared, when we bring our attention to those versions of us and let them come back home to our heart and say, I'm not running anymore. I'm not going to distract myself. I'm not going to just think scary thoughts and just keep go spiraling forever, for days, for weeks, for months, for years. When we become more aware of our subconscious thoughts, oh my gosh, I guess I do believe that because my reality is telling me so. If you want to know what you believe, look at your reality. If you don't like your reality right now, change your thoughts because that'll change the way you're feeling in your body about your thoughts. And you start to head downstream towards the frequencies in the dimensions of time that exist already. So our wholest version of us is very aware of us because it exists. He, she, it exists right now and it's watching us. And I like to believe that it's our greatest cheerleader. It's our greatest ally saying, you've got this. I'm already whole. I reached the version of wholeness. And I'm observing you go through all of the struggle to finally turn towards yourself and love yourself enough to bring all those discarded, dismissed, other parts of you that have lived in shame for not being good enough and bring them back home to your wholeness. Because now, once they're accepted and not judged anymore, you become a different frequency. You become the frequency of acceptance and compassion, and your wholeness rises up with that. And you start bringing in other things that are vibrating at the frequency of your wholeness, which is abundance and love and compassion. And abundance, well, here's a question for you, Truman. And I'm talking in a circular way, but I am going to get to your thing and do this work with you. This one last question. How would you define abundance? Or anyone else here, if they would like to put in the chat how they would describe abundance, I'm curious.
I would say that I feel like abundance tends to make me think of having an overflow or like too much or like you're beyond capacity when I think that's obviously, yeah, it can't be a meaning of abundance, but I think for me, it would just be enough. Having
Okay.
what we need and being grateful for it, not having or not needing the yeah, not needing that overflow necessarily. Like having enough
Okay.
is abundant.
Okay. Lovely. Okay. What you just said in a very like honest, real way to make that a little more concise, Brady said, sufficient for your needs, and then at least a little more. And that's exactly how I would define it, Brady, that abundance is having enough for your needs and a little bit more. So there's some spaciousness, right? It's not, abundance isn't hoarding. Can you see how hoarding things, collecting things, and feeling like you must have them in order for what? To feel safer? Somewhere, if that's where you're living, somewhere you must believe that there isn't enough out there in the universe to provide for for you to feel safe. So abundance is knowing that you have enough for your needs and a little bit more, and there's spaciousness in there. So your mind isn't living constantly in in a mode of over efforting, the fear of there's not enough, there's never going to be enough, I always need to over effort. And your life will be reflecting back to you that very thought. So when you can shift, Truman, I don't want to simplify this to make it sound really woo woo, but I am going to say that over and over and over, what I am experiencing, what I've read, what I'm tapped into and stuff is that really it must start with your thoughts. It must start with your thoughts. When we have any sort of um, disease in our bodies, right? Did it just come from nowhere? Like, oh, she randomly got this thing, this growth or this disease or something. I don't think it ever starts randomly in our body. It must start with our thoughts first. It's very refined. It's so refined that we don't even notice that our thoughts have a vibration. They carry a frequency. When we have thoughts that are based in fear, they're very heavy, they're dense, and it starts to form actual matter because frequency precedes form. So where our attention, the cycle is where our attention goes, our energy flows. So now we're in our thoughts. Where our attention goes, oh my gosh, there's not enough money. Can you see that? That thought has a frequency that is energetic. Now it's created an actual thought pattern of frequency that is wanting to, it sends it out and our body responds to it. That's the thing. It starts as a thought, really refined. Now it's getting more dense as it comes into our body, and our emotion about that thought latches. Oh my gosh, that thought is scary. How am I going to respond? Well, I'm going to stay in my limbic system and be stressed. Can you see that? Now it's creating more matter. It's getting denser and heavier with the thought patterns of fear, right? Rather than love. What's the opposite of love? It's fear. Those are two very different energies on the same spectrum, right? There's non duality, but we live in a dualistic world. So the opposite of that is this. And one exists in just two sides of the same coin. One makes the other true, male and female, black and white, right and wrong, all the polarity that we experience in this dimension of reality is dualistic. So we think, oh, well, this is right and that is wrong. This is love and this is fear. Actually, love is the most powerful force in all the universe. It allows fear to exist because it knows that it's okay. Love already won. Love is so powerful that it actually allows fear to exist for us to have the experience of fear so we can step back into the love that we are. Does that make sense? How would you ever, how would you, we came here to remember. We came here to forget so we would remember eventually. How could we ever remember that we are abundance and love and compassion if we didn't experience first what it was like to live in its opposition, in fear, in lack, in anger, in resentment? All of these energies are so important for us to experience as human beings. We came here to experience it all, just not the good stuff, the stuff that we deem bad, that's actually just on the same spectrum as good and bad. It's all the same. And we were meant to feel it all and experience it all as part of our curriculum and our learning. Okay. So Truman,
Yeah.
how often, if on a scale of 0 to 10, or if you had to give it a percentage, like 100% down to like 0%, how often would you say that you are living in the frequency of more fear? Where would you put yourself on that daily around this? I need to be more productive and I need to make more money.
Daily?
Yeah, every day.
Not a very high percentage. I
Oh,
mean, yeah, obviously it's something I care about and worry about it, but at the same time, I mean, without knowing some of the stuff I know now, I know that just without the knowledge of quantum physics, I know that dwelling on negative thoughts aren't going to get you anywhere. So
okay.
doing something about it
Okay.
instead, I would say maybe 20-30%, and that's on the upper end. I would say it's probably less than that most of the
Maybe
time.
less than that. Okay. So
Yeah.
my next question, right on the tail end of that, is how much awareness do you feel like you have around how often you are distracting yourself from thinking the thoughts about money and about, do I have enough? Do I need to do more? Like, how aware are you that, oh, maybe I'm not living in that fear
Like
daily. It's
aware
low,
of
but
my position, to be doing anything about it
well,
or
I
to
guess
do
the
anything.
question is, how often are you distracting yourself from thinking that, like kind of numbing out,
I don't
not
know. I
letting
feel
yourself,
like
not allowing yourself to feel it?
obviously the worry is money, but when I go into work, I could be distracting myself from it. Although that's
Well,
like
I wouldn't
one
call
of
that a just,
the,
okay.
it's like one of the, I guess, solutions to a financial problem is work. Obviously, it in a way is distracting because it feels like I don't know. Maybe less of a distraction and more so like I feel like I'm solving it, a
Yeah, I
solution.
would say that would be more in the category of productivity, that you're
Yeah.
actually aligning with something that I know you well enough that you enjoy your work. You enjoy going there. Yes, there's politics everywhere. There's things that go on. But I think am I wrong in saying that largely you enjoy your job?
Oh, you're not wrong at all. I do enjoy that.
Yeah. Okay. So distraction, I want to be more clear about what distraction would look like is numbing out and distracting yourself from that feeling of, oh my gosh, that grip, right? So, because lower energies of fear and shame and guilt and resentment and anger, they're all very dense energies. So, when they come into our bodies, which are dense, We feel it in a heavier way than we do the higher vibrating frequencies of emotion. Energy and motion is emotion, is like love and joy and peace and simplicity and all abundance, and all of those are higher. So when they come in, we're like, yes, yes, we love that, because our bodies, it doesn't feel so heavy. If And every emotion has a frequency, it literally does, and they've categorized it. Death would be 0 hertz, right? You're not, there's no more emotion running through this instrument when we've reached death. So what's just up from death then would be shame at 20 hertz, and then going up from there, it's like guilt, regret, resentment, anger, bitterness, victimhood. All of these are really dense energies. Can you see how a human being, without even being aware, will do anything to avoid feeling the denser, heavier emotions? So we kind of run from them. And the way that we run is to distract ourselves and not feel them. But this is important to note too, is that when we are running, we're actually just repeating the same thing that keeps us stuck, because we're not willing to feel it. I'm sure you've all heard the saying, you must feel in order to heal. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that you wallow in your anger or your bitterness or your victimhood, but you allow it to come in so you can actually feel it and experience it, so it can come and go. Our emotions were never meant to come and stay. Become the guest house for your emotions. That's a big thing in meditation circles that they teach. Become the guest house. Allow your emotions to come in. Don't invite them right in the front door. Let them come in the side door, and they can sit next to you. They they are an extension of you. They are trying to teach you something about yourself. Why are you angry? Why are you sad? Why are you a victim? Is it true that you are a victim to anything? If you choose to believe so, you will stay stuck. The minute we start to say, wait a minute, I am the creator of my reality. And if I keep believing I'm a victim, then everything in life is showing me I am a victim because I believe it somewhere. When we clean that up. So, Truman, I'm going to ask you a few questions here. So, the main challenge right now is around finances and productivity. So, how does that leave you feeling when you're feeling these things? Like, what is that? How does that make you feel? If it's a familiar feeling, what is that feeling?
Um, Feelings of like lacking or laziness.
Okay.
Like what I could be doing with the time of my day to make money, whether it's a side hustle or even just working on myself. Because I think obviously financial is a problem, but to be able to better yourself, to like set yourself in a better position to be more qualified, whether that be for a job or just personable, um,
Okay.
working on yourself outside of just financial stuff as well.
Okay. So,
Lacking in laziness, I would say. Sorry.
okay, yeah. For in order to have this be condensed and kind of go through this, I'm not going to like shut you down or anything, but I want to be really as concise as we can. So you're saying laziness and lack, that's how it makes you feel.
Yeah,
Okay.
lacking.
So
Yeah, I'm
lacking.
lacking.
Okay. So if this is a familiar feeling, where have you felt this before? Those feelings.
Um, Whenever I'm self-conscious about stuff, maybe
Okay.
more so in the lacking and less lazy, but so
Okay.
lacking.
Okay. That's good. I'm going to remember, this is why I love doing this work with people, because it helps them flex the muscle of trusting their intuition and their subconscious, because your subconscious is always watching. It's always noted. It is so aware of things that we aren't even aware it's aware of. So it is aware right now that you're having this conversation with me. So trust that it's going to help you. Like, I'm going to ask you a question, go with your first impression, not the second impression, because your first impression is always authentic. And then right behind it is your mind, your brain saying, wait, is that true? Maybe that's not true. Maybe I just was thinking that, right? So you always have the doubt right behind the first like spark of authenticity and intuition. So what Can you think of the first time you ever felt that familiar feeling that you just said? Lack.
I never felt lacking.
That you were lacking
I was
or that
lacking
you were
during when.
lazy. What?
I would say like early elementary school.
Okay. So when you
I
were a lad,
was,
yeah.
yeah,
So
I was a little
can
bit
you
attention
remember a
deficit.
time? Can you remember
Yeah,
a
I
time?
was rather attention deficit, and so focusing on schoolwork was not something to put in any priority. Um,
Okay.
and when the results of that meant the teacher being upset or other
Mm.
students being confused why I hadn't placed schoolwork above maybe entertainment or having fun or just being myself. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I started to realize, oh, that's not what everyone else does. That feeling
Ah,
of
so you
lack
felt
really
you were
started.
different, maybe. Like I'm different and I'm not as smart, or I am lacking what they have, or something around that. Okay. That's
I think it was more of an attitude. I wasn't, I didn't take it seriously, and that was probably at an age where rebelliousness was not super common or accepted, and so it wasn't a good look. But
so
other
what
than
it
that,
what
fine.
did you decide about yourself because of all of the dynamics of that?
Um, yeah, lacking or like yeah, I think that kind of goes into laziness too.
Okay.
Um,
So you made it mean I must be lazy. I'm not like them. I'm different. I might be I am lazy. So what I'm trying to bring you to is the root limiting core belief that you came to believe before you knew better, and everyone has this, and there's never just one. I think they're like the Olympic rings, and they all kind of grow together. And when you start to unravel one and start to question it, wait, is it really true that I am this? I am fill in the blank because that happened. And then we start to unravel all of them once we start to unravel the first one, because you start to realize, oh, of course I came to believe that. Of course I came to believe that because all those circumstances were pointing towards that. So it must be true, right? When we're young, we just have all the evidence that's showing us, well, that's true. But now we're older, we're wiser, we have much more lived experience under our belt. And you can start to turn towards that with a more curiosity rather than certainty, right? Like, is that really true? That, because I see you, you've been in school, you graduated college, you're in flight school, you are hardworking, like all these things, right? But you're like, this still clings as being there. It's still something there because guess what? 95% of everything that we are is driven by those old conditioned beliefs. So we're going to challenge it today. And if I had to ask you what you think your I am statement is
an
around
I
this
am
whole,
statement.
yeah, or I am
Okay.
not. It's either I am, and our subconscious, by the way, it is very, very childlike. So it's not like I am this and this and that. It's very simple. It's like one quick sentence: I am this, or I am not this. And it's so simple. And that's what's running the show for all of us until we turn our awareness to it and be like, wait, I get to change that belief. I get to change my whole life because I came to believe in error in thinking. Yes, that's the truth. We get to change our whole life if we're willing to turn towards it with curiosity. So I ask you, what do you think your I am statement is around this familiar theme in your life? What did you come to believe about yourself when you were in early grade school because of this experience?
The solid one doesn't come off the top of my head necessarily.
So, like, I'm not capable? Or do you
Is
think it
it
was more
I'm
about,
not or is it I am?
It can be I am
I
or I
guess
am
both
not.
either. Yeah.
Well, it can be either. So it's like most of the time it's like I am not. I am not capable. I am not
Okay.
worthy. I don't matter. Sometimes it'll be as far down the scale as I'm bad. I am bad or I am unworthy, right? Um
I feel like in
so
that scenario, maybe I am different.
I'm different. Okay. So, and different in a way that isn't good according to you.
Um, I mean, I don't feel so much shame about that period. Yes,
Oh,
it was probably chaotic and probably not awesome to be a parent of that when homework's not done or grades are slipping. But I feel at the same time, my learning experiences and the way school system works are very rigid and it doesn't work for
right.
a lot of people.
Can you
Um,
see that now? I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I don't want to interrupt
Absolutely.
you, but I'm going to right now because we were all conditioned to believe that, well, first of all, I need to back it up even a little bit more. I just found out this last year that Rockefeller was, we've all heard of Rockefeller and how wealthy that the I think they were the for the iron and all they were building all the industrial age, right?
Yeah.
That was the family that owned like all the iron mills and all the things around. So what I forget who which
I
person
think I
in the
know where you're
Rockefeller
going.
family, they started the education system that still
Yeah.
exists today. And they started it as a way to teach and mold people to be working in factories. So they decided it's like I don't know who they was, but it would be best to teach math, science, like these things that factory workers might need to know working in a factory.
Right.
But so when you think of our education system, we're like, wow, that's actually really not supportive of a
It's
human
flawed and
being.
outdated.
That there's we're not worker bees. We're not meant to be robots. We are not robots. And so the system has failed humans by focusing on this very narrow population of people that actually learn that way, that can sit in classrooms for long periods of time as kids and actually pay attention and hear what is being said and learn and then regurgitate the information really well on a test in order to move forward through the grades. Can you see how flawed that system is as you give some space to it and look back and go, holy cow, why weren't we allowing, I mean, I think ideally the best way to teach kids is to let them naturally be drawn to what they want to learn, which is more Montessori based, right? It's like let the kids, like when we follow our hearts, when we're childlike, we're not like, oh, I should be doing this. It's we just do
Right.
what we
We just
want to
do.
do. If we could let our children, like ADD is such a subversive category to put anyone in because these people, and I fall in that category too, right? I think we all do. We're all on the spectrum of it. If we're not robots, we're on the spectrum of having gifts that are outside of the population of people that are willing to sit in a desk and learn that way. Some people learn kinesthetically or auditorily and not just sitting there watching a teacher listening, or they like to see and work with things. Everybody has a different way, but our school system wasn't built that way. So many kids fall through the cracks thinking that something's wrong with them because everybody else is able to either they're doing it or they're pretending to do it really well,
Yeah.
and you don't know that as a kid. So you look around and you're like, oh my gosh. And as parents, if we only learned that way, then we think that's the right way. And so that is so sad. If, as a parent, to believe that your kids should be doing something a certain way and not seeing them for the gifts and the talents that are innately living in them that are different than the sliver of a population. So hopefully we're coming out of this and that we're not trying to medicate it to get them to be robotic. So So sorry if that's how it felt for you. Um, and I want to, as we go deeper into this, I'm curious because what if our soul came here to live in this instrument as a human being to experience all the things in order to evolve? What could that possibly mean? So we're going to get to that, but I want you to, so right now you just said, and in the sake of time, I'm going to kind of start going faster here. So your I am statement is I'm different, and not in a good way. Back then you came to believe I am different. So I mean, now you can see, but you have more lived experience, but back then that was everything for you. I'm different. And that's bad because I want to be like the robots that can just it looks like they're doing it easily. What's wrong with me? I'm different. Okay. Does that feel right?
Yeah. Um, and the people who were doing it successfully happen to be the popular or cool. And so that on
Okay.
top of it was like, oh,
Okay. So it seemed easier for them. Things come easy for them. What's wrong with me that I'm not having an easeful time in school and they are everything's so easy. Look, everything comes to them and they're popular or whatever. How could I be that? How could I, right? And I'm different. So, how this theme of I am different and I should be doing something different or whatever, that's linked to your past. What is the theme now? You kind of said sometimes I feel like I am being lazy and I should be doing it different, maybe, or that there's some lack, right? Okay, I see you um, leaning into that energy. So now I want to ask you, you've already explained that you felt this way in your life. It's showing up. Yes, you have a good job, but in other areas of your life, it's probably showing up too, or you wouldn't have brought this forward. Um, and can you see some other areas in your life that you can see this limited way to believe? This it's almost like a prison in of thought. Can you see how that is impacting you now, believing that you're quote unquote lazy or that you're different, you should be doing something differently? Do you feel like that's impacting you still in your life in some ways? Or you wouldn't have
um,
brought it forward?
yeah, but I feel like it's like kind of can be a positive thing, at least being aware of it.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there because I'm going to keep moving you through this because that comes in just a minute. What I want to ask you is how do you feel like you've adapted in life to protect yourself from feeling this way? Do you feel like there's been adaptations? There's maladaptations and adaptations. Both of them probably fall into like things that we do to cope as humans so we don't need to feel the theme, the I am statement. What ways do you think you've adapted in your life to protect yourself from feeling that way?
Um, I mean, because of the education that I'm getting, it's a rather prestigious and rigorous education that not many people really even understand. And so when people do find out, they're rather impressed and will say kind of favorable things that make me probably boost my ego when really what I'm feeling is that I'm lacking or lazy. And how they see
Ah,
it is, wow, he's so productive. He's doing that hard thing when really I'm feeling the opposite while they're telling me that.
okay. Wow. Thank you. That's actually really insightful and very vulnerable and honest. Thank you for sharing that because I think we're all kind of doing that, right? Until we realize that nothing can come, no validation, um, like acceptance and adoration or anything can, yes, it feels really good to get that, to hear that. But can you see how it triggers something inside of you that's showing you where you're still not free? Wherever we're triggered by something, you're like, oh, they're saying this thing, but I know this. And it's triggering energetically. Triggers are just energy. It's energy coming and aligning with an energy that lives here, or it wouldn't be triggering us. So life, it's so benevolent. It's always showing us. It's always poking us, right? It's saying, yeah, I'm just going to let this thing trigger you because I'm trying to show you where you're still not free. Turn toward it. Stop running, stop distracting, stop numbing, and turn toward the thing that triggered you. Think of it as a gift. Thank you that they said that because now I'm more aware and conscious where I still need and want to. You don't need to. These are some of the things I have to, I should, I need to. No, I get to. I get to be the one that turns towards that part of me that still feels like I'm lacking and hold it. So when they say those things, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I am. I'm doing this. Thank you. It's very telling the way someone accepts or doesn't a compliment. Have you seen people where they and I'm guilty of this. I remember as a people pleaser and a perfectionist, when someone would be like, "Oh, you're so good at that," I would deflect it or ignore it and be like, "Oh, well, they're better," or "I learned it from them." I would always deflect it instead of saying thank you. It's very telling how people accept or receive compliments. Watch, pay attention to yourself. Okay, so your adaptation, maybe, so a maladaptive coping mechanism would be to like turn to some substances or um, things that are going to really become more addictive, right? And that would be maladaptive, a way to cope instead of feeling the feeling and actually sitting with that part of you and holding it and bringing it back home, or an adaptation that is actually kind of celebrated would be perfectionism and people pleasing, being the yes person that always says yes, or doing it better than other people and making it look really easy. Those are adaptations, but they're still a way of coping with something that feels uncomfortable. Okay,
Right.
so I'm going to ask you to tell me what are some of the negative consequences of living with this within this prison or this belief that you are someone who is different and you're lacking. What are some of
Are
the
the
negative
negatives?
consequences? Yes.
I might subconsciously limit myself.
Okay. In what way?
Thinking I'm too lazy to give it my all or to do the productive thing because I don't know if I'll be successful doing it or something.
Ah, so it's better to not try because if I try and I fail, then I really am lacking and I'm not making
Yeah,
it.
it might solidify what you thought.
Okay, so there's a little bit of self-sabotage in that. Can you see that?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, the awareness of self-sabotage is really beautiful because what it does is it hopefully right with it is some compassion. Like, oh my gosh, what's my inner dialogue? If I'm telling myself, well, I might as well just not even try because if I try and I fail, then it just confirms that I am a loser. I'm not lacking. I'm not able. I'm not capable. I'm different. Okay. So I really want to be here with you on this. I want to ask you, what has it really felt like to live within this prison? It's like a prison, it's like a cage that keeps you a little bit smaller, a little bit more stuck, believing that you can't. How has that felt for you, Truman?
that's a good question because, like I said, it obviously started at an early age, so it's almost as if I like don't know what it's like outside the prison, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no,
And
that's a really
so
honest
I don't know, it's hard to
answer.
look outside when most of it is what you know.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yes. I think anybody would actually, if they were really being honest, they would say that. It has felt like that's all I've known. I
Yeah,
don't know
so
what it would be like to live outside of that cage, that prison that is literally exists because I came to believe it is so. Can you
yeah.
see how all of our lived, every person is having their own personal reality, experience of life? Can you see how our lived experience can only be to the extent of what we believe to be true? So you have a belief about this. And so your experience is, well, everything's just showing me that I'm lacking and I'm different. I don't know what it would be like to live differently. You're right. You're absolutely right. Because you believe somewhere on some subconscious level, even though you can think, well, no, that's not true. Look at me. I'm doing this and I did this. But subconsciously, that's what we want to go heal. So it stops
Right.
running the show 95% of the time. You're like, I didn't even know what it would be like to live outside of that. Well, guess what? Thank you for being willing to do this because I'm hoping this will start to open the door of the prison, give you the key to unlock the lock, to open the door, to have a little different perspective here. So I'm going to ask you some questions here. All right, first of all, are you ready to finally be free of this prison?
I would assume so. Yeah.
Okay. Some people will say, no, I'm actually too scared. I don't know what it would be like to be outside of the prison. So I mean, and it's a very honest answer. And some people live in that space because they've identified themselves. Their ego is identified so much around that whole narrative. We are a walking world of words. What we've told ourselves to be true is what our experience will be because the frequency of our thoughts creates our reality. So if we believe that we are lacking or whatever, we're walking around just confirming. It's the confirmation bias. If we believe it to be true, our reality is showing us over and over that it's true. The minute we shift our awareness and be like, wait, is that really true? It starts to break down. Our reality will change because our thoughts will become different. So there's so much compassion around this idea that I'm scared to let this go because it's all I've ever known. What if I'm not the person that's sick all the time? What kind of attention am I going to get then? Some people live their whole lives around an identity of being a sick person. And that's scary as hell to think of giving up that identity because then who are they? Do you see how that works? So,
Yeah.
so much compassion. But I love that you're like, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to do something different and live a different way. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that desire and that intention here in this space. I hope other
I mean,
people are actually
to me, it seems almost obvious.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. I
Like
think you're ready. I think
counterintuitive
you've
to stay in it.
yes. Yes. And I love that you are like, kudos to you for being like, okay, I've lived this experience long enough. Let's experience something different because you know you can. That's how powerful we are. We know when we know we can, then we will. When we start believing that we can, we will. So you're starting to lean into the energy of, well, of course I can. I actually can be aware of my thoughts and where they're taking me so I can shift the tide. I can start heading downstream instead of living in this over efforted battle to try to control my thoughts and make them something different or be someone different, um, and step into the flow of your life. So I'm going to help you dissolve the prison right now. So I want to ask you a few questions. Um, and this seems counterintuitive a little bit, but it kind of leans into the idea of what if we were actually here to experience things in order to evolve. So, my question for you is how did that root belief of I am different or I'm lacking help you, Truman, become who you are today? It's a weird question. I know we've already gone through the negative consequences and how that's affected you and impacted your life still today. But now I want to ask you shift the energy from the negative to the positive now. I want your subconscious is paying attention and it's listening, and this starts to heal that old wound when you start to give a different energy towards the key that opens up the prison that you've been in. So, if you
Yeah, I
can, yeah,
feel.
what
Can you
how
repeat
has
the question
this
again?
yeah,
Yeah.
how has this root experience of I am different and I am lacking helped you, Truman, become who you are today?
Um, maybe it's maybe it's what's the word? Oh, like stubborn of me or spiteful, but to be in spite of those. Like I'm different or I'm lazy, so whatever. What am I gonna do to show that that doesn't mean anything? I can
Okay.
still do it.
Okay. So how I would word that is, so I'm different. Is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Isn't different? Isn't everyone different? Like we're all created so differently. So what? What does different mean now? If you start to shift the identity of different, like I'm
Taking
different, does it
pride in
mean
your
that I'm lacking?
differences.
Right? Like we're all so different. Everybody has a different way to learn, to be, to speak, to think. And thank goodness, how boring if it like what if we went into a museum and every piece of art on the wall was exactly the same? How freaking boring would that be? There would be
It
no
wouldn't be a
museums.
museum.
It wouldn't be a museum. It would just be a collection of boring pieces that are all the same.
Participation trophies.
Exactly. Thank goodness for people who were different to come forward with what was moving through them and create something from them that was unique and different than anyone else's. We are limitless beings, creator beings. We create differently when we allow ourselves to, not trying looking sideways trying to be like them. So you starting to understand, oh my gosh, what that instilled in me actually was that different doesn't mean wrong or bad or lacking. It just means I'm different. I have a different way to be and learn and move through life. Thank goodness. If everyone could embrace their differences, think of how happy we would be creating from the differences that we are. So, the next question is what this is kind of like the first one, but it goes a little bit more. I want a little more, um, maybe more information. What good qualities or traits came that live in you now came from this root experience of believing that I'm different and lacking?
Um, to work harder and like work on top of it, knowing that maybe like in my head growing up, maybe seeing that I'm different at the time might have been seen as a disadvantage. And so to make up for a disadvantage to do more work or be working harder
Okay.
to
Okay. So you maybe had a little more hustle in you. You learned how to be able to adapt and hustle a
in my
little
own
bit
way.
more in your way to be able to stay on top of that feeling and actually not just show others, but show yourself, actually, I am capable. I have a different way to learn. I have a different way to be, and that is freaking awesome. Okay, so moving along, I'm going to ask you to go, like we've kind of been in the weeds a little bit and coming up out of the weeds. I'm going to ask you to try to go to the highest perspective, kind of that what if our soul came here for a reason. Like, what is another way to see this I am statement from the highest perspective? Like, what else could that experience have meant for you on a soul level? I guess that's the question.
I'm not entirely sure. Can you just repeat
Yeah,
the
yeah.
brief
So the
thing?
question is, what else could that experience have meant from a soul perspective instead of right now we're talking about it existed and and because of that all of these negative consequences and it still lives there because I'm still feeling it on some levels. I don't know what it would be like to live outside of that. All of these experiences, if you were to gather them up and your soul was like looking at it and you're like, oh, I can see having these experiences was important for my soul because I actually feel like I'm learning and have learned fill in the blank. Because I believe
To
that,
accept
okay, accept what?
the differences,
Okay,
all
that
the,
you're
I guess,
different and it
behaviors,
doesn't
body
mean a
changes.
bad thing. Okay,
Yeah, run
okay,
with it.
okay. And I don't know, is it just, I kind of get this hit that because you're accepting more and more that it isn't a negative thing like you thought it was, how much compassion does that, how much, I see you turning towards it with a lot of compassion for yourself, but I also, I also see it as you bringing more compassion for others too.
Yeah.
Like, how would you learn compassion for others if you hadn't given it here first? Like, oh my gosh, we're all different. Everybody's at a different level of gifts and talents and things that they bring. There's so much compassion for the people that also felt that they were different and that that was a bad thing. You're way more accepting of yourself and others because these you experienced it, you lived it. It was part of your curriculum here as a human being to live through that in order to what?
Learn from it
Yeah.
and help others,
And
or
you're
at
and
least
you're
do something with what you learn.
yes. I mean, it's if we're never looking back at our path, we're all on our own path. Here there are as many paths as there are people. If we aren't willing to look back on our lives and notice the patterns and the stories of our lives and get to here and be like, well, am I just going to ignore all the things that happen and just keep going on my life, or be able to turn towards it and say, oh my gosh, if my soul created a perfect curriculum for me to learn compassion for others, compassion for myself, unconditional acceptance and love, and no judgment of myself or anyone else, how would I learn that? Let me see. You put together, what if your soul put together this perfect curriculum for you to experience all of that so you could actually take that wisdom and move forward in your life with it to help others and be someone who is accepting and not judgmental and so compassionate? Can you see that?
Um, Maybe a little
So,
better now that you are addressing it, but yeah.
yeah. So, is it true, Truman, that you are different in a bad way?
No.
No, of course not. Because if you've been suffering at all, you've been believing in error in thinking. Our true nature is not suffering, it is joy. Our true nature is abundance and compassion and love. It is not suffering and lack and diminishing and playing small in this world at all. So, in fact, I'm just going to address our chakras. Our root chakra is I am. I am here to take up space. And when people struggle with depression um, and disorders that the system will give them, I'm going to give you this name, this disorder that you have. And then people start believing it and they start living their lives as if they have a disorder and they have a disease and they are othered. They've othered themselves because the system has. So when we show up in lack, believing that we shouldn't even be here and take up space, do you see how if we are all one, the unified field is like this big quilt, if you will. And if we are not showing up as a participator, I am here to take up space and participate in life. Can you see how actually we're leaving a hole in the quilt? We're leaving a hole in the quilt. And so when we show up and say, I'm here to take up space, I am a participator in this life, then we actually are filling in the hole in the quilt. If everyone will show up and literally be here to be who they are and be who they be, we fill in the unified field and we're all more likely to be loving and accepting of each other. Okay, so I just want to say that. So, like, I love that you just said this is starting to shift. Does it feel a little bit lighter? Like, are you finally ready to really be free? We've talked about the negative consequences and the lessons, the soul lessons, if you will, of living in this identity for this long. And it's served a really beautiful purpose. Are you ready to finally be free?
Yeah, but does that mean, I mean, I guess we still retain all of what we learned, but like I want to be free from it, but still take everything I've gathered.
Yes. And you always get to have those lessons with you. They already live in you. There's no fear of losing them because you're going to finally change your identity. What you're doing now is taking, it's like you're becoming a transmuter, the alchemist. You're taking the negative energies that were old and untrue, and you've already lived them. Now you're giving them a different meaning. You're rewriting the story because you can, because we only ever have now. We can talk about our past and the things that happened in the story that we created out of it and what we made it mean about ourselves. We can talk about it, but are we in the future when we're talking, I mean, in the past when we're talking about it? No, we can only talk about it now. So that's good news because that means that right now we actually can rewrite the narrative. Oh my gosh, I can see how that was negative. It wasn't true. And I came to learn beautiful things and expand my soul through the experience of believing that to be true. But you aren't that anymore. So I'm going to ask you, what would become available to you in a world where it's no longer true that you are different and lacking? What becomes available to Truman now?
I feel like the overall sense of like release or freedom, but kind of the what would that be? The pride or happiness gathered from being able to look back and see the stepping stones and the progressions. Maybe more, less stepping stones and more of a staircase because you're progressing upward.
Okay, okay. When you say upward, because, and I want to say this, because time is relative, there isn't a linear path where people are ahead or someone's behind or above or below. It doesn't work that way because there is no space or time, all relative. But we're living in a dimension of time that makes us feel like there is a past and a future. So you saying I'm going up the steps or whatever, but really what you're literally doing is creating a different frequency of energy that lives in you that starts sending out a different signal now. So what becomes available to you in a world where you are free, liberated from still having that narrative inform your future? What becomes available? You just said, I get to take the lessons that I learned from my experience and bring them into my heart, my soul, and live from that knowing, wow, I I lived through that. So one of the things I do with my clients is called quantum timeline healing. And in a meditation, in a meditative state, they go back, I take them back to the version of themselves that ever came to believe that untruth. And they get to talk to that version and say, thank you. Thank you for taking one for the team, for learning that lesson, for being willing to go through what you went through, because I am you. I know what that felt like. Thank you. I honor you. Thank you so much. And you basically take the energy of that old version of you and you bring it back home with so much compassion so it can finally say, ah, I did my job well. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. I lived through it. I didn't, yeah, I might have adapted in a different way, but that's what we do as humans. And it works until it doesn't work anymore. We bring more awareness to it and we set it free. That version of you that lived through that is free now to come back to the energy of you that is more whole, more compassionate, more aware that that didn't serve him. Now, so what becomes available to you when you're free of this? How does that feel like in your body when you're like, oh, it's a little bit softer, it's a little bit lighter? Like, tell me what that feels like. What becomes available in a world where you are free?
Sorry, repeat the end of that question.
Are you willing to step into a different way to be in the world because now you've liberated that old version of you that ever believed that you were different and it was bad and you were lazy and lacking?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, can you describe what that feels like? What would it feel like to live in that world every day waking up? How does that feel?
Um, Energetic.
Okay, yes, energetic. having more energy. It's not leaking. Your vessel is a little more secure, not so, doesn't have so many holes in it going out in all these different
Mhm.
directions, losing
And,
power, energetic
and,
power to choose.
and in that, it's like energy towards productivity.
Okay. I love that. That right there is rewriting your script. Instead of believing, well, it's true that I'm lazy. So what does a lazy person do? He's not very productive. He's going to distract himself. So you taking the energy of like, wait, I'm not going to leak my power and spend my energy believing a lie. You're taking your power, your energy is our power, and you're containing it here to give to the thing that you choose now that brings you into abundance. Do you see how that whole cycle works? So now you're starting to rewrite who you now define yourself to be. So if you created a new I am statement, and we're almost done here. Thank you for being so patient. If you're still here watching this, and thank you for Truman, we're almost done. What would you say your new I am statement is around this new energy, this new way to believe about yourself? I am what? What comes up? First thought. Go with your first
Productive.
impression. I am productive. I am productive. So I am statements, when they're spoken with intention and belief, if you believe that you are productive, your energy and your emotions around thinking that I'm productive start to support your thoughts. I'm productive? What does that look like? Let's get curious. What does productivity look like? And you're human, so it's not going to be a perfect stare. And it's not like, oh, I'm ahead or I'm behind, because time is relative. You can't get it wrong. You can't make a mistake in this life. Everything just is. And it's always informing us how to be more aligned with what we actually desire to be. So there's no mistakes. You haven't made a mistake. How does that feel? You were like, wait, it wasn't wrong that I believed that? No, because look what you learned. There's never mistakes. We're always learning. We're here to learn. It's a curriculum, not a test. We are here to learn how to be more loving and compassionate towards ourselves and then everything else outside of us. So your I am statement is I am productive. The more you say it, the more your subconscious starts to, you're planting seeds in your subconscious. Very simple. It wants to hear simplicity. I am productive. I am abundance. What else feels aligned, Truman? There's not just one I am statement.
Um,
And then I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I didn't say anything yet. I just
Ah,
made a noise.
you're thinking?
Yeah, I am thinking like I feel like I shouldn't diminish the thought of I am different and instead embrace it.
I am what? You're kind of breaking up. I can't hear you very
Different,
clearly.
sorry.
So I am different is your new I am statement. In what way?
In that I think it's a positive thing, and
Okay. So I
I I,
am,
I take pride in that.
how about I am unique instead of I
Okay,
am different?
yeah,
Yeah. We want to couch it in positive terms, because even if we're saying like, I wish, or I want, or I am maybe this, our subconscious is always listening. And it's like, well, they don't really believe it. So if it's in couched in negative at all, it grasps the negative and it sends out a signal. So keep it in the positive. I'm unique. I am
yeah,
productive. I am safe to take care of myself. I trust myself to show up for myself. I am going to be the one who stays and tends to my emotions rather than distracting or numbing out or running, right? It's the theme of the buffalo. It's what I base my whole practice and called everything, because I realized I was a cow. I was a cattle. I was running from my storms, my inner storms that were creating my outer storms, unaware, and I kept running, not even knowing I was running. We don't know what we don't know. Awareness is an interesting, tricky thing. It is persistent and persuasive when we believe an error in thinking. When we believe a lie, it will be persistent and it will be very productive in creating a reality around suffering if we're believing something not true. So if we believe we are anything other than a creator being, limitless, abundant, safe, compassionate, then we are suffering and we are believing a lie. So I'm so grateful that you can come this far and realize, oh my gosh, I'm unique. I love that about myself. I love that I get to be different than other people and learn and grow in a different way than anyone else. This is your path and it's beautiful. Embrace it. Love on yourself. Become your own most tender lover. Speak to yourself as you would a tender lover. Or if you could imagine a tender lover speaking to you, how would they speak to you? Can you speak to yourself like that? When is the last time you actually listened to a love song and thought about it as you speaking to you? I remember the first time I did that, I wept because I'd never even thought of that. And then when I did, I was like, oh my gosh, why haven't I done this my whole life? Of course I love myself. Why are we the last ones to love ourselves? What is that? I think it's just part of human conditioning. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up, Truman. Thank you, Brady, for staying here. Thank you for anyone who stayed and listened. If anything that Truman said could help you, I hope it did, because this is a theme that lives in each one of us deeply if we aren't aware. There are subconscious limiting beliefs in each of us. Will we please turn to them with so much compassion and flip the narrative? This wasn't a bad thing. This taught me so much beauty about myself. And now I get to give that beauty out back into the world, into the unified field. I'm showing up as someone who has grown and expanded. And now I get to help everyone else do that because I gave it here first. So thank you for being here. And if you ever want to work with me or you are interested in some of my online courses around sacred sexuality and even masculine and feminine wounded energies that are starting to rise up and be more refined and conscious in the unified field, lots of people are finally turning in and tuning in, and it's such a beautiful time to be alive. So thank you for being here. Namaste. That means the light inside, the divine light inside of me sees and recognizes and honors the divine light in you. Okay, ciao for now. Sorry this went so long, but I think we did good work here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just stopping the recording.